There is a deep human desire to believe that the world operates according to a strict and predictable moral order. We want to trust that if we do, good things will happen to us, and that suffering is reserved only for those who have done something to deserve it. This assumption offers us a sense of safety and control. It is a view that is rooted in wisdom. The biblical book of Proverbs, for instance, presents a world that is ordered by God to be fair. In this vision of life, the righteous are rewarded for their integrity. The wicked are punished for their evil. The equation seems simple. You get what you deserve. It is a comforting thought that justice is a mechanical law of the universe, but this assumption faces a challenge when we look at the world around us. We eventually meet the perspective found in Ecclesiastes. This voice observes that people do not always get what they deserve. We see that the world is not always fair. Life can feel unpredictable and hard to comprehend. It is like smoke. This unpredictability forces us to ask a difficult question. Is God truly wise and just? This is the specific question explored in the final book of wisdom, the book of Job. It begins with a strange story. The setting is the heavens. It is described as a type of heavenly command center. God is present there. He is surrounded by angelic creatures known as the sons of God. They are reporting for duty. In this scene, God draws attention to a man named Job. He points out that Job is his servant. He highlights how righteous and good Job is. But this assessment is immediately challenged. One of the angelic creatures approaches God. In the Hebrew text, this figure is referred to as the Satan. It is important to understand who this figure is. The word is actually a title. Literally, it means the one who is opposed. Among the entire crew of heavenly beings, this is the one questioning how God is running the world. He raises a disturbing possibility about human nature. He proposes that Job might not actually love God for who God is. He suggests that Job is only a good person because God rewards him. The accusation is sharp. It suggests that Job is simply working the system. The Satan argues that Job obeys only to get what he wants. The challenge is laid down. If God were to take away all the good things he gave to Job, then we would see Job's true colors. God agrees to this experiment. He allows the Satan to inflict suffering on Job. The result is catastrophic. Job loses everyone and everything that he cares about. It is devastating, and it is crucial to remember the premise of this event. Job deserves none of this. God himself stated that Job was righteous. Initially, the assumption of transaction holds. In the midst of this suffering, Job still praises God. This resolves the immediate challenge of the Satan. But the narrative does not end there. As the suffering continues, we move into chapter 3 and discover how Job is really feeling inside. The internal pressure builds. Job unleashes a poem that reveals his devastation. It is a long, elaborate curse on the day he was born. This vulnerability opens the door for a second cycle of challenging our assumptions. Job's friends come to visit him. They intend to offer help. However, they are operating under the strict logic of retribution. They look at Job's condition and conclude that he must have done something horribly wrong to deserve this. Their logic is based on their theology. They know God is just. They know the world is ordered by God's justice and fairness. Therefore, if Job is suffering, he must be getting what he deserves. For the next 34 chapters, the friends and Job engage in a back-and-forth debate expressed in very dense Hebrew poetry. The friends speculate relentlessly. They try to find the cause of the suffering. They wonder why God might have sent such pain. They eventually start making up lists of hypothetical sins that Job must have committed to warrant this punishment. They cannot let go of the idea that the world is a simple moral equation. But Job pushes back. After each accusation, Job defends his innocence. And the narrative has already told us that Job is right. He is innocent. This creates a profound tension. Job is on an emotional roller coaster. At some moments, he remains very confident that God is still wise and just. Yet in other moments, the pain causes him to doubt God's goodness. The suffering forces Job to question the very character of the Creator. He comes to accuse God of being reckless. He calls God unfair and corrupt. The assumption that God runs the world according to human standards of fairness is crumbling. By the end of this long dialogue, Job demands that God come and explain himself in person. God responds. He comes in the form of a great storm cloud. We might expect God to answer the accusations directly. We might expect him to explain the conversation with the Satan. But God does not give Job a direct answer. He does not mention the test or the accuser. Instead, God does something very different. He takes Job on a virtual tour of the universe. He shows Job how grand the world is. The focus shifts from Job's personal pain to the cosmic scale of creation. God asks Job if he is even capable of running the world or understanding it just for a single day. God points out the incredible detail in the world. There are things that we might see every day, but really do not understand at all. But God understands. He knows it all intimately. He pays attention to the beauty and operations of the universe in ways that we have not even imagined. He attends to places that we will never see. To conclude this tour, God shows Job two wondrous beasts. He brags about how great they are. These creatures are dangerous. They would kill a human without even thinking about it. Yet God says they are not evil. They are actually a part of his good world. This is God's whole defense. It feels weird. It challenges our desire for a simple, logical explanation. What was the point of this tour? The message seems to be about perspective. From Job's point of view, it looks like God is not just. But God's perspective is infinitely bigger. God is dynamically interacting with a whole universe of complexity when he makes decisions. This complex interaction is what God calls his wisdom. When we realize the scale of this complexity, we see that Job asking God to defend himself is actually kind of absurd. Job could not comprehend this kind of complexity, even if he wanted to. This realization brings the narrative to a new place. It leaves Job in a place of humility. He never learned why he suffered. The specific cause remains hidden, and yet he is able to live in peace and in the fear of the Lord. The story does not end in the ashes, however. After this resolution of the heart, God restores to Job double everything he had lost. This twist is surprising. We might be tempted to slip back into our original assumption. We might ask, is this a reward? Is God saying, congratulations, Job, you passed this elaborate test? But the answer must be no. The whole book just made the point that Job losing everything was not a punishment. Therefore, getting it back is not a reward. The transaction mindset has been dismantled. So why does he get it back? Apparently, God in his wisdom decided to give Job a gift. We do not know why. It is an act of grace, not payment. What we do know is that Job is now a different kind of person. He is the kind of person who, no matter what comes, good or bad, can trust God's wisdom. This story is one part of a larger collection. These biblical books of wisdom are amazing. Each one offers a unique perspective on the good life. We need to hear all of them together as we learn to live with wisdom and in the fear of the Lord. It is part of a unified story that leads to Jesus and offers wisdom for the modern world. As we navigate our own complexities, we are invited to hold these questions loosely and trust in a wisdom that is deeper than our immediate understanding. The journey of wisdom does not end here, but continues as we explore the design and main ideas of these ancient texts.